Welcome to Over 40, Fabulous and Pregnant. I am your host, Jamie Massey, and you're listening to episode 87. If you are looking for pregnancy stories of women over 40, you've come to the right place. And today on the show, we have Kristen on to share her pregnancy journey at 41. In this show, she shares her 2 rainbow baby pregnancies and how she struggled through them. She also shares a lot of what I'm sure a lot of us are thinking through our journey, like blaming our bodies or wanting to believe something is wrong with us. At least that's how I felt. We also had a few audio challenges. So there's a few times where you might think she's ignoring me, but she just couldn't hear me. And hey, those things happen. This is actually our first show that we don't have any video on. And today's listener feedback comes from Gabriella. She says, "Hi, Jamie. Just wanted to say I love listening to your updates at the beginning of each episode. Thanks for taking us on your journey with you." Gabriella, thank you for letting me know. You know, sometimes I worry I'm bragging about being pregnant or, I don't want to seem ungrateful. So really, thank you for that note. I know I've gotten that a few times, and thank you everyone for letting me know. Gabriella is going on her 6th year journey of infertility, and she is ready for a break, which I totally get. Take all the time you need, and we will be here whenever you're ready. And for my pregnancy update, I can't believe I'm 35 weeks pregnant. And I'm starting to feel like a little sad. Like I see the end is coming. I mean, I know I will miss him like moving around, and trust me, there are definitely things I'm not going to miss. So I just have so many mixed emotions as I get closer to birth. This week, I started going to the chiropractor a couple times a week. I told her my goal is to just have the easiest birth and to just line me all up. I know that's totally laughable, but that is my amazing goal of the easiest birth, right? It's laughable. And I looked into pregnancy photos. I don't know if I mentioned this last time, but I looked into pregnancy photos and wow, those are pricey. And I couldn't justify spending that money on photos of just me. I honestly would rather spend money on family photos after he's born. So with that idea, I have been replicating photos of other guest pregnancy photos that have inspired me, like their professional ones and the non-professional ones. And so far, I've taken pictures of Tanika from episode 59, and this week I did Desiree from episode 20, and it has been a lot of fun. Like, my husband painted my stomach for the photo, and it was just kind of a fun experience and bonding time, and the photos are just a lot of fun. At our midwife appointment, we found out that baby is Frank Breech, which means not only is he not head down, but like his legs are all the way by his face. So we have a few things to work on. I've started doing some inversions, and I put an ice pack at the top of my belly to hopefully move him, to turn him around. And he does not like either one of those. At least he moves a ton after doing both things. And I'm just afraid he hasn't moved yet. So the work will continue. This week, the midwife also gave me 5 options to start the cervical dilation, at least like a gentle one, right? So she suggested I do acupuncture, sex, red raspberry tea, dates, and some oil that I can't think of at the moment. And as I mentioned on Instagram, I would really like to have him on the 4th of July. So we need to get things moving, starting with his position. And why the 4th of July? It's only like a week before my due date. But the 4th of July is me and my husband's 5th year anniversary of our second first date. So I think that would be really cute to have something else to celebrate that day. I know that is another perfect world situation, but why not have a goal and we'll miss it, and that's fine also. We also had our hospital tour this past Saturday, which was short and sweet. I really expected it to be a little longer. I mean, it was like maybe 15 minutes max. And then we ended the tour in one of the labor rooms, and it kind of weirded me out. Like, this is still really happening. It gave me a lot of weird feelings, I guess. And I looked at that bed and I'm like, holy cow, that thing is tiny. Like a twin size bed, nothing bigger. It was just, the bed was shocking to me, and both me and my husband were like, whoa, that thing is small. But the rooms were actually really big. Room for a birthing tub, which I'm really excited about. And then this week is filled with more appointments, including our second one with the doula. So I'm really excited to talk more about birth and how to prepare and like what to do. Really excited about that. And my husband is also making progress on our guest bathroom. It's really looking good. But today the floors are going in. That means we're one step closer, and yet I haven't picked out the countertops yet. I've looked, but I haven't found anything that I thought matches. So that's to be continued. And if you want to check out some of my personal stuff, I have a personal Instagram other than Over 40 Fabulous and Pregnant. You can go to Jamie's Read on Instagram to find out more on the bathroom and all that gardening other stuff if you want. But really, enough about me. Let's get into Kristen's pregnancy story at 41. Kristen, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks.
Today, we are sharing Kristen's story at 41. But before we get started, Kristen, will you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm from Rochester Hills, Michigan, which is kind of the Metro Detroit area. I work teaching Spanish part-time, and I guess a little bit about our family. My husband is actually from Spain, so I studied Spanish and I got my master's in that. And then once I graduated, I moved over to Barcelona. And so I was over there for about 5 years. And then we decided we wanted to be in the US and kind of got that whole thing started, all the paperwork and everything. And we hadn't tried to have kids or anything when we were in Spain. And since my husband is a dentist, he had to go back to school since he had to get basically a new license to practice in the US. Mm-hmm. So we kind of didn't really even think about having kids until that was taken care of. And by that time, I was, I think, 33. So we got married when I was 27. And yeah, 33 is when he kind of finished up school, got his license to practice in the US. And then we kind of were like there was nothing stopping us from trying to start a family, I guess. Circumstances were more ideal, let's say. So we've had kind of a bumpy road with growing our family. Our first pregnancy was very easy to get pregnant. We were actually not like expressly trying to get pregnant. We were just not preventing, and it took one time. And
Oh my
so
gosh,
that's
one
kind of
time.
in my mind, I thought like, oh, it's always going to be like this. It's just going to be easy. And I actually wasn't very good about like tracking my cycle and all that stuff. And I just remember like I didn't know I was pregnant right away, but I remember my routine was, I would teach and then I would have my office hours and drive to the gym, probably go to the gym for like an hour every day. And there was like 3 days in a row that I drove myself to the gym and I could not get myself out of the car. And I didn't know why, but I was like, I cannot, I can't get out of the car. And then I was thinking, oh, wait, yeah, my period never came. So, and it was like during the week, I think it was a Tuesday night, and I had this like craving for pizza, which I generally eat very healthy. So I was like, that's weird. And my husband also later told me he thought it was weird that I wanted pizza too. And so the next day I took a test and it was immediately a positive. And this sounds really kind of crazy, but I saw the word girl like in capital letters in my mind's eye. I could see that.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, well, that's weird. And it did end up being a girl, so I was right.
Oh,
Um,
fun.
but I probably didn't, yeah, I know it was crazy. I didn't get into an OB until like I was probably like 11 weeks pregnant. So I was like kind of behind with
Hmm.
all that. I was taking prenatals and stuff, but I was, it, that was a very different experience than the rest of my pregnancies.
Hmm.
The rest of them were very much like planned and tried for. But so that pregnancy it went well. I did have like high blood pressure. So I was on blood pressure medicine. I was doing a lot of NSTs, the non-stress tests, but overall it was pretty uneventful. I was active. I was still working up until like a month before I was due, and I was teaching at a university. So I was just done teaching. So it just kind of was good timing.
Hmm.
So her due date was like right around Memorial Day. So I, because of the high blood pressure as well, my doctor was like, I don't want you going past your due date. And she asked me how I felt about it. I didn't really know anything because it was my first pregnancy, my first everything. So I was just like, well, I don't know if if that's what you think I should do, I guess I'll do it. Like, not really knowing much else.
Hmm.
So I was induced. It took a few days. It was like they had to break my water, and she was born like it was in the morning after being in labor all night. But she was small for gestational age. She was about, I think, 5 pounds, 13 ounces, but
Oh, that is
otherwise
small.
healthy. Yeah, she was little. They put her in the warmer a little bit. And then, like, the last time they were, oh, if she doesn't like maintain her temperature, we're going to have to take her to the NICU. But the last time they did it, she was okay and didn't end up taking her to the NICU. But she's very, very healthy child. She's almost 7, so we've had no issues or anything, but
Hmm.
just being small at birth. So then, she was a very colicky baby, so it was kind of a hard introduction to motherhood, but we still wanted more kids. That didn't stop us from wanting to have, you know, I always said I wanted at least two, but I would like, it really in my heart, I wanted to have 3 kids.
Hmm.
So we kind of were trying to have another baby. I breastfed, did kind of extended breastfeeding with her. It was till like, she was like 2 years old, a little bit older than that. And I went back to my doctor and said, we're not getting pregnant. Like, what could be? And she said, well, maybe, the breastfeeding could be stopping you from ovulating. So I did one cycle of Clomid and I got pregnant.
Wow.
Yeah, which I was kind of surprised by, but
Now, when did you start trying? Like, how far postpartum were
um
you?
it was over a year. So
Okay.
I mean, like it was a hard first year. Just not a lot of sleep, not a lot of, and she was very, very attached to me. So like it was hard for me to even have anybody like watch her, even like grandma. It got easier as she got older, but it was just very intense. So once things kind of calmed down and everything was a little more manageable, we were like, okay, let's start trying. And that's kind of when I started getting a little bit more aware of my cycle. Also, another thing for me, I generally don't get my cycle back until around a year postpartum. So that's just how it's been for me.
Interesting.
Yeah, I know some people get it back, at 2 months, 3 months. For me, it's usually between 11 and 12 months. So anyway, I started tracking a little bit more and kind of things that I probably should have learned in health class, but we don't teach that stuff apparently, like
Yeah.
how to track your cycle. I think that's something that we should be teaching.
Yeah. So you were
But
doing the basal temperature?
I didn't do the temperature at that point. I was
Okay.
just, I guess, kind of just starting to get to understanding the cycle. So I was doing like ovulation strips, but that was about it.
Okay.
So I did get pregnant and I went for the first appointment. This was during COVID, so I was not allowed to have anybody with me. And so I went to the first appointment. Everything was fine. There was a heartbeat. I actually, my doctor was the one who did the ultrasound, which normally there's like a tech there, but I think just because of COVID, it was more, pared down with
Hmm.
staff. But I think she actually did tell me to like record it. So I recorded it. So I still have a recording on my phone of the heartbeat and everything. And so everything was fine. I didn't have another appointment scheduled until like 12 weeks because at that time, it's like a month between appointments. And so I went to my 12-week appointment and I went to give my urine sample and then there was just like blood and tissue and everything came out at the
Ugh.
doctor's office, which I was like, okay. Obviously, I was freaking out, but I was kind of in shock. Like, I just
Yeah.
didn't really know how to deal with it. So they said, "Oh, we'll take you for an ultrasound. Sometimes there's a lot of blood and everything's okay. Like, I knew it wasn't okay. I just knew, like, I don't know. I'm sure some of the listeners have been through miscarriages and things like that. You just know."
Hmm.
And so I went and we did the ultrasound and there was nothing there. So everything had already come out. I just didn't know. So that was like a missed miscarriage that I didn't know that was going to happen, obviously. But my doctor was very like supportive. She right away said, "There's nothing that you did or didn't do that made this happen. Like it was not your fault." And so that kind of helped. And she also said, a lot of times couples, when this happens, like they're pregnant within a few months. So don't get like super discouraged, which of course I was super upset. And when I got
Yeah.
home, of course, I like screamed and cried in the shower. I
Hmm.
still get upset talking about it now, but it's
I
okay.
understand. No,
um,
thank you for sharing.
so I actually did like some counseling because I I knew right away there's like no way that I can get through this just on my own. So I did grief counseling and that helped me a lot. I did another grief group through the church too, and I still have friends that I talk to from that group. So that's one good thing that came out of it. But yeah, so that was hard to go through. That was in June of 2020 when everything happened. And so, of course, we wanted to get pregnant again. And I didn't really ask my doctor if I should wait or how long I should wait. I just kind of was like, I'm going for it. So I did. She had me going and doing blood work every week and just making sure that all my hormone levels went back to normal to like the non-pregnancy.
Hmm.
And that took, I'm going to say between 5 and 6 weeks. So then, of course, I was tracking and stuff again once I got my period. And it was, I don't know, it was a hard time in my life, but it was, in August was my husband and I's wedding anniversary. So I forced myself to like book something and have something to look forward to. And I literally told myself, like, you have to try to enjoy this because, you feel when you go through loss, you feel like guilt if you feel happy. And, it's
Hmm.
a lot of emotions that you're dealing with, a lot of conflicting things going through your mind at the same time. But I was like, okay, I have to try. Like my baby would not want me to be sad and like not enjoying my life the rest of my life. That's not what they would want for me. So we went to like an overnight weekend trip type of thing. And that was kind of lining up with my ovulation and everything. So we tried during that weekend and everything. And I ended up getting pregnant on my first cycle. So
Wow.
that was like, by that time, so I was 37 when I had the first loss, and then 37 when I got pregnant again with my first rainbow baby.
Hmm.
So then he was due in May of 2021. But so kind of the same type of thing went through. That pregnancy was pretty not, I don't want to say abnormal, but I did have high blood pressure again. I didn't get on medication because it was within like an okay range, but I was just very kind of on top of tracking it and checking it, a couple times a day and making sure it didn't get over a certain point.
Yeah. How hard was it to get past 12 weeks?
So, well, that for me, I would say that's kind of like when I went back to the doctor, of course, I had to give urine samples and stuff, and
Hmm.
I said something to one of the nurses, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna have flashbacks in this bathroom," and she said, like, "There's another bathroom you can use. You don't have to use the exact same bathroom." So I was like, "Okay, thank you."
Yeah.
But yeah, getting past the 12-week mark, I mean, I know there's no like quote unquote safe time because,
Yeah.
things can happen at any time in a pregnancy, unfortunately. But for me, getting past 12 weeks was kind of like okay, I can kind of like relax a little bit and not freak out quite so much. Yeah, there was a lot of praying going on and a lot of, support from other people. But yeah, it was hard. It's
Yeah.
definitely hard. And during the pregnancy, my first pregnancy that we had a loss with, I was I was trying to stay like fit, doing like prenatal exercises. I found stuff on YouTube and stuff. And during my first pregnancy after loss, I was just, this is one thing that shows how anxious I was. I was so terrified. I was like, I can't even do that. Like, I can't do, like, basically the only thing I would do is walk. I would not do any kind of like extra,
Like
but
extra exercise, energy
yeah, like
wise.
any
Yeah.
extra effort or like, being afraid of doing too much
Yeah.
type of thing.
I get that.
So, and the rest of the pregnancy, I don't think I did NSTs for that one. I had the same doctor. They were very supportive, like, and I probably called a million times asking about, can I eat this food? Can I eat that food? Like, I got very paranoid about what I was eating, what I was putting on my skin. Like, it was to the point where I was like, I know I'm being crazy about this, but I can't stop. And like,
Yeah.
I even called one time and said, like, I'm sorry I'm calling so much. And they said, no, no, like, you don't have to worry. This is our job. Like, we're here for you. It doesn't matter if you think it's silly, you can call us anytime. So that was nice
Yeah.
and helped. It made me not feel so like crazy. But looking back at it now, I'm like, yeah, I even got rid of nail polish because I'm like, I got to get the natural nail polish. And, you know, I took
Yeah.
it very much like I know intellectually there's not a lot you can do to prevent having a loss, but I was determined to do everything in my power. Like if there's anything I can do that will help, I'm going to do that. So I got through that. We actually went over the due date, and I swore I didn't want to get induced again because it wasn't like a super pleasant experience.
Yeah.
And but he was overdue, and I was like, all right, I had kidney stones, I think, like at
Ooh.
37 or 38 weeks pregnant, and I was like, am I going into labor? What is happening? Like, is this like so of course I called, and of course it was at like 2 o'clock in the morning. So I called the doctor, and she's like, oh well, just come in, we'll take a look at you, but it's probably a kidney stone if it's like only on one side. So, but of course I was worried about the baby and I wanted to make sure he was okay. It ended up, it was just a kidney stone, which was very painful. But
Yeah.
after going through that, I was like, I just want this baby in my arms. I do not want to wait anymore. Like, so I agreed to like getting induced again. And that it took a couple days. They had to break my water again. It didn't happen naturally. And so I did get an epidural, but it didn't work.
Oh
So,
no.
and I also had a nurse who was like learning, and she was putting the catheter in, and I was like, I can feel this. Like, and I don't know if they didn't believe me, but I was just like, I don't know what it took her forever to get it in. And so I finally was like, I can feel it, everything. Like, I said, oh, okay, well, like, let's just get through these next contractions, and then we'll get the anesthesiologist down again and get some more medicine. And by that time, I was in full blown labor. It was like there was no stopping it. There was no time
Oh,
for any pain medication. So, what you see on all the TV shows and movies where women are screaming their heads off and swearing and saying all kinds of things, that was me. And I was squeezing my husband's hand so hard, but I made sure that I was squeezing his left hand and not the hand he uses for work, because I was like, you need that to do all your dental work. um, but yeah, and I kind of had like a PTSD moment during the labor, because I was like, the last time I felt like this, like having the labor pains, it was a miscarriage, and it was not,
Mhm.
and so I was internally telling myself, no, you're not losing your baby, you're giving birth, like it's okay. But of course, it was still in my head, and I mean, I cried through like most of the active labor, and
Oh.
when he finally came out, I cried tears of relief, and he was healthy. Another small for gestational age baby, not as small as his sister. He was over 6 pounds, but for a boy, that's considered like small.
Mhm.
And so that was that. I had a kind of, when we brought him home, I kind of went through a lot of grief again, because I was thinking like, what would your brother look like the baby who passed away? I was
Yeah.
then feeling guilty about, being happy and smiling with this baby. And so it was a lot.
Yeah.
The postpartum period with him was really hard. My daughter also had kind of a hard time adjusting, and it was just kind of rough.
Yeah.
I was obviously very thankful to have him, and it was just a lot to adjust to. And so anyway, that was him. That was his birth. And then, like I said, it takes me about 11 months to a year to get my period back. So it was the same after him. And then actually on his birthday, his first birthday, I took a pregnancy test and I was pregnant again. So I was 39 at that point. That
Mhm.
was in like May of 2022. And we had kind of talked about like maybe wanting another one, but not really sure. I kind of went back and forth a lot about it, because I was like, I'm really happy with, you know, having these two. And I don't know if I want to go through pregnancy again, because I gain a lot of weight during pregnancy. It takes me a long time to lose the weight. And it's just, there's a lot of really cool things about being pregnant, but there's also things that are like, oh, I could go without that.
Yeah.
Um,
Sure.
but anyway, so I found out I was pregnant. I was very excited, like happy. I was like, well, there's the answer for us. Cause, I was praying about it. Like, I don't know if you'll let us have another baby, but if you will, like, we'd welcome it. We'd be really happy if we had another baby. I just didn't know if it would happen. And so we went, I believe that the COVID restrictions were still going on at that time, at least in my area, as far as like not having people with you at appointments.
Mhm.
So, like I said, that was May 2022. I came in for the first appointment, like the early ultrasound. There was a heartbeat. It was, they made sure it wasn't ectopic. It was maybe a little behind, so they said, well, we can prescribe some progesterone and like that can help. We could, the dates could be off a little bit, whatever. So I was like, well, if there's anything I can do to help this baby thrive, I'm absolutely going to do it. So I took the progesterone, but I just kind of had a feeling that something wasn't quite right leading up to the next appointment. And so I went and I was by myself again. And yeah, there was no heartbeat. The baby had grown probably to about, I don't know, I think 9 or 10 weeks of gestation. But there was no heartbeat anymore. So that was very hard. Of course, I cried, and same nurse was there when we went through it the first time. And my doctor suggested having surgery because of how far along I was. And I like immediately said no because I was just like, I didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
But then I kind of talked about it, and, people who have been through miscarriages will know doesn't just happen, like things don't just come out once. It takes a while, and your body
Mhm.
takes a while to get everything out, and it's not predictable. And
Yes.
so I was like, okay. And the doctor said, well, if you have surgery, you're not going to have these huge gushes of like blood coming out, blood and tissue coming out. So, if you want to talk to your husband and figure out what you guys want to do, take your time, whatever. So I called my husband, and we were like, yeah, we probably should do the surgery just because it's, you know, it's just a little more predictable. Of course, you still you're going to be bleeding for a while, even after you have surgery. But
Mhm.
so we did have to do the surgery. It was the next day, actually, which was it
Quick.
was good in a way because it was like, it's just, it's taken care of, but also bad because it was like, I just found out that my baby passed away and I have to like go do this already. Like
Yeah.
it was very hard.
Like you didn't have any chance to mourn.
So we ended up getting genetic testing to see, because we're like, well, why did this happen? Not once, but twice. Like, is there something wrong with us? Like, what happened?
Yeah.
And it ended up being triploidy, which is not related to age or anything genetic or anything like that. It just happens when two sperm fertilize one egg. So there's like too much genetic information and it cannot,
No.
basically, the babies just don't develop because there's two sets of DNA within one egg. So, and that was confusing to me too, because I was like, I guess I didn't know much about twins. I'm like, how did twins happen? But they're two eggs, right? Like
Right.
it's either two eggs or like one, if it's identical, splits.
Right.
But anyway, that was our second loss. And that left me feeling very discouraged,
Sure.
like very angry, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Like angry at your body, angry at
And
yourself.
just not understanding like why our family had to go through that twice.
Yeah.
So I did want to have another baby because once I got into my head, we're going to have 3 children like on Earth. It was hard to get away from that idea, but I also was not ready to start trying right away because I was just like, my mind is too like anxious right now. I'm dealing with a lot of pain and anger, and like I just wasn't ready to subject myself to possibly having another loss at
Mhm.
that point yet. And so my doctor, again, we were doing the blood work to make sure everything goes back to normal, blah, blah, blah. And it was taking much longer this time, even though I had surgery, which I kind of thought would be the opposite, but
Mhm.
it didn't end up going back to normal until about 12 weeks after I had the loss. So, which is still in the normal range, but like in the far end of the normal range. So after that, then I was like, okay, well, how long should we wait after I start my cycle again? And, they said at least one cycle. Ideally, you'd wait at least two. And then, like, on your third month of having a normal cycle, then, you can start trying. So that's pretty much what we did. And I had a friend introduce me to seed cycling, which is literally you just consume, there's four different seeds. It's like flax seed, sesame seed, pumpkin seed, and what's the fourth one?
Is it chia seed?
I don't know if you've heard of it. Sunflower seed, sesame, pumpkin, and flax. Yeah. The seed cycling. So my friend like recommended that to me and I was like, okay, I've never heard of it, but it's just seeds, so
Like,
can't
what are
hurt to
you
try.
doing? Like, are you ingesting them or what
Yeah,
are you
you
doing?
just eat them. So it's like
I've never heard of that.
I hadn't heard of it until I was trying to get pregnant again. Yeah, follicular phase, which is days 1 to 14, you do 1 to 2 tablespoons of ground flaxseed and 1 to 2 tablespoons of pumpkin seeds. And then the the next phase, the 15 to 28, 1 to 2 tablespoons of ground sunflower seeds and 1 to 2 tablespoons of sesame seeds. And that's
Hmm.
what I did. And it completely like regulated my cycle, which I was shocked by. But
Fascinating.
yeah, I mean, it works with your hormones, I guess. But
Uh-huh.
like I had had some irregularities, nothing like too crazy with my cycle, but like I'd have times where like, oh, maybe my period's like a week late or something, or I'd have a long period. And then when I started doing this, it was like ovulation date, 14 days later, period. Like it was extremely regular. So I don't know if that helped me get pregnant, but it definitely regulated my cycle. So I started doing that.
How long did you do it for?
I did it until I got pregnant. Um,
How, how long is
so
that?
that took, so we had the second loss was in June of 2022,
Hmm.
and I didn't get pregnant until like May of the following year. So the first 3 months, first three-ish months, well, first 3 months we weren't trying. And then I had started the seed cycling. And so we just kept trying. Then I got into doing like the temperature, you know, basal temperature, and then
Hmm.
all the ovulation strips every month and knowing exactly when, the fertile window was. I, got one of the apps that I actually paid for. So it would be like, your chances of getting pregnant or whatever this day and that day. And so we were trying every month and nothing was happening. Like I just, you know, I kind of had hoped that once we started trying, it would happen quickly for us, like it did the first time, and it
Hmm.
didn't. So I kind of, I was discouraged. I have another friend who was trying to get pregnant at the same time. So every month we would be talking to each other, like, oh, did you get your period yet? And, you know, we'd be disappointed at the same,
Yeah.
saying, no, we didn't like, I didn't get pregnant. She didn't get pregnant. And we'd try to encourage each other, like, okay, we have to not get too down because, you have another chance, whatever. So after, I guess, 6 months or so of trying, doing all the right things, quote unquote, eating super healthy, like doing exercise. I like doing like weightlifting and stuff like that, but I was kind of taking it easy on that just because I didn't want to overdo it. So I was doing a lot of gentle exercise, like walking and just things that are not too hard on the body. I ended up actually going and doing acupuncture
How did you like it?
because I had read, there's like fertility acupuncture that you can do.
Uh-huh.
So I went and explained to her kind of just a brief like history of, what we're doing, what was going on. And I also contacted my OB to do like some blood work, just like I don't know if you've ever had it, like the huge fertility panel where they do like
Yeah.
a ton of tests. Um,
Yeah.
it's like 11 vials of blood.
Hmm.
So I did that. That was in process when I went to do the acupuncture, and they were calling me here and there saying like, "Oh, this is normal. Like this is normal. Like all these things were coming back normal." And, you have good ovarian reserve, everything. Like there was no physical reason why I wasn't getting pregnant, which I kind of was hoping there was some kind of hormone that was off or something that I could correct and just
Sure.
make it easier to get pregnant.
Yeah. You want answers too. Like something has to be wrong.
I was turning 40 and I still wasn't pregnant. So I was, kind of depressed about that. My birthday's on Christmas Day. So everyone's
Mhm.
super, it's like happy, happy time of year. And I was like, I don't feel happy and I don't want to turn 40 because that's going to just mean my chances of getting pregnant again are even less. There was people around me pregnant, like coworker right next door, due at the same time that the baby we lost was due. Both of
Okay.
our losses were in June, so we had two babies that were due in January. So it's like my birthday and then coming up on like their due dates of when they should have been born, and it was just a lot. And I was like, I don't even feel like celebrating my birthday. Like 40 is a big birthday and people like kind of go out and go all out for that birthday sometimes. And I was like, I literally just want to get through the day. Like I don't
Yeah.
I don't want to do anything. I'm not happy, so I don't want to pretend I'm happy. So anyway, I went, did the acupuncture, trying to remember when that was. It was after the new year, so it probably was like February, March, maybe. No, it must have been,
Hmm.
maybe it was April. Must have been April. Like early April, because I think I had just done my all the blood work and I was waiting for results. But so I laid down, she did, put the needles in and everything. And this is sounds weird, but I had a vision of an embryo like in my body. And I was like, that's really kind of weird. I was just kind of envisioning it. It wasn't happening yet or anything. It was just like in my mind and I saw it.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, okay, well, I don't know. Maybe it'll happen soon, or maybe I'm just overthinking things and I'm thinking about this all the time. Maybe that's why I saw that in my head. And so I scheduled my next appointment with the acupuncture. I think it was supposed to be like 2 weeks from then or something like that. And she ended up, she was going to China and she ended up getting delayed. So I didn't see her again it was probably like a month between the visits. But by then, all my blood work came in. Everything was normal. There was nothing wrong that anybody could see.
Hmm.
I had a mammogram. My mammogram came back normal. So I was like, okay, well, I don't know. I think part of me also was just believing that something was wrong with me for
Hmm.
like that whole year after having that loss.
So many
I,
of us feel that way.
yeah. And like my doctor, because the HCG wasn't leaving my body, and she was like, we really have to like watch this and make sure it goes down to zero because if it doesn't, like there's some drugs I can give you, but it's something that like gets rid of precancerous cells. So I don't know. I heard that and I thought maybe in my head, like internally, I was like, oh, maybe I have cancer. Like maybe there's something really deeply wrong with me. And then every month, I don't know, like once I got all the blood work and everything that said, no, you're normal. Like everything's fine. There's nothing physically wrong with you. Like there's nothing, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to get pregnant. But so that was, through February, March, April. Then we came up to my son's second birthday, which of course I remember. Oh, on your first birthday, I had a pregnancy test that said I
Mm.
was pregnant.
Yeah.
So I was trying, and it was also Mother's Day that weekend that year. So I was trying to not like ruin the celebration by like dwelling on that, but like still remembering it, but not trying to focus on that, on only that. And so I was chatting with one of my friends who I met through the grief group, and like he and his wife like know the whole story, they know what happened, and he's like, "Oh yeah, my wife had a vision, or she was praying and she had a vision of your next child. And I was like, what? Okay. And at that point I was like, well, I hope she's right. I mean, I don't know. Like that would be nice if that happened, you know? And I just kind of was like, well, that's weird. Like, I don't know. Like I had felt after my first loss, I felt very close to God. I felt like I was having a lot of communication. And then after the second loss, I just felt like, is anybody there? Does anyone like, do you know anything? Like, I just wasn't feeling like any communication from God, like that
Yeah.
I could hear. Like, I'm sure, I think things like that where somebody else was kind of giving me encouragement, that was God saying, like, I didn't forget about you. Like, you probably just are too upset to like see or hear. But anyway, that kind of made me think. I was like, okay, well, maybe it will happen. I don't know. I was like also at the point where I'm like, I literally have tried everything. I've done acupuncture, I've done all the eating, I've done all like, if it doesn't happen, I guess like we can't say that we didn't try. Like, and if I don't have another baby, then that's just not what was going to happen. I don't know. So that was kind of my breaking point, I want to say, where I just was like, I just have to accept whatever it is. Like I was open to going and seeing a specialist and like trying to do an IUI if I didn't get pregnant. I think that was like the last month where I was like, if we don't get pregnant, we're going to try doing an IUI. And then if that doesn't happen, if that doesn't work, then we're just going to kind of leave it as it is. So anyway, I got to the point where it was like, okay, you're ovulating, everything's, whatever. So of course we tried, and then like I said, my cycle was extremely regular. Like 14 days after ovulation day, the period was there every single time for like the past year.
Wow.
And so I got to that when my period was supposed to come, and I had another acupuncture appointment, and I said, well, my period hasn't come yet, so I don't know. And she's like, okay, well, we'll just change the treatment a little bit, because if you are pregnant, then we want to do things a little bit differently. It's like, okay. So she did that, and she just said, okay, well, if you do you get your period, just call and make another appointment, and we'll do another round of like the fertility stuff. So I was like, all right. And I was like, still no period, like a good week, and I was like, I was just terrified of getting a pregnancy test that was positive and then having another loss. So I was like putting it off.
Hmm.
And I was like, okay, well, it's been a week and I should have had my period. And I don't know. And it was, I think, Memorial Day weekend. So that was June, end of May, end of May of 2023. So I was 40 at that point. But I was like, I know my OB is closed and I know they're going to send me for blood work. So I'm not taking the test until Tuesday morning. So that Tuesday morning, I was like, all right, I got to do this. I got to take the test. And it was positive. I'm like, okay. All right. Well, I guess I have to call the doctor. Went for blood work, of course. And everything was looking good. And they called back and said, we do want you to go like one more time in like a couple days to just make sure the numbers are going up like they're supposed to. So I'm like, okay. So I did that, but I've been for so much blood work that it was like every time I was going, for a while I was going because I wanted my hormones to go down because I was trying to get back to normal. And then it was like, now you're here hoping that everything's going up and everything's going how it's supposed to. And so I think they were supposed to call me like on a Friday, and I was like, why are they not calling me? It was like Friday afternoon and I hadn't gotten the call yet. And I was like in my head going, they're going to call me at the end of the day because they don't want to give bad news over the phone. Like during the day, they're going to wait till the end of the day until everybody's gone. And that was my mentality. That was like, okay, they're just not calling me because it's bad news.
Uh-huh.
They finally call me and they're like, everything looks good. We're going to schedule your appointment for your first ultrasound. And I was like, what? Like, I just was kind of in disbelief. I'm like, okay. So then this time I told my husband, I'm like, you are coming with me because if I have good news, I want you there. And if it's bad news, I also want you there because I don't want to be there by myself ever again going through this stuff.
Yeah, because that's all
So
you've known in the past.
yeah. So he took the day off work and my normal OB was not there because she was on vacation, but I was not going to wait another week for her. I'm like, I want to see and know what's going on because, it was hard to wait for. So we were with the other doctor and the same nurse who's been there with all the bad stuff too. She was in the room with us. And, he talks to us before we start doing the ultrasound. He's like, "Oh yeah, you've been through a lot." And I said, "Yeah, it's been a lot." So he's like, "Okay, well let's see what's going on." And so I didn't notice at first, but he didn't turn the screen on. Like there's like a TV where they see the ultrasound.
Right.
He didn't turn it on right away. And then he made a comment like, "Oh, we're turning the big screen on, so that's good news." And I was like, "What?" So I'm assuming that he would like ask people if they wanted to see or not, even if it was, not the best news. But
Mm-hmm.
so of course I cried because I was like relieved. And so I was like, I was convinced I was going to come here and like have bad news. Like that's just where I was at mentally. And I was like, I am very glad that I was wrong because it was like a huge relief. But, you get to these appointments and you feel okay for like a few days. And then you're like, okay. And then the worry starts again. Like,
Oh, yeah.
is it going to be okay at the next time I go in? And
Mm-hmm.
thankfully, everything has been good. So being pregnant at 40, I, in my two previous full-term pregnancies, I had high blood pressure for both of those.
What about this
But
one?
this one, my blood pressure was normal.
Ooh,
Like,
that's
believe it or
awesome.
not, I was like, okay, this is crazy. But I was, I was teaching again, like, tried to keep things as normal as possible. And I tried not to dwell on, what if something goes wrong because it's just, again, like I said, there's only so much you can control. Like, you can be thankful for every moment that you have your baby with you, or you can be planning for something bad to happen. So
Mm-hmm.
I tried to be more on the thankful and like, I didn't feel super confident like especially during the first trimester. I was always kind of like, okay, if we get to that point, if we, get to our due date, if we get to the 20-week scan, like that's kind of how you do things when you have been through losses.
Yeah.
But so I decided also to do prenatal yoga because I was like, I feel like that's something that is gentle, but also helps with like the labor part of
Mm-hmm.
giving birth and just knowing how to stay a little calmer. So I ended up doing that. I put it off a little bit because I was like, okay, I'm going to sign up for yoga and then I'm going to like lose the baby. That's what's going to happen to me.
Ugh.
And I was like, no, I just have to do it. Like, and then I would remember like my friend who was like, yeah, my wife had a vision of your next child and it's going to be early in the new year. And I was like, okay, well, if she's having this like basically vision from God that I'm going to have a baby, like maybe I should believe it. Like it happened right after he told me that. And my due date is right at the beginning of the next year. So I have to have faith that that's not like being told to me for no reason. Like I, that kind of helped me a little bit of like, okay, well, maybe I'm not hearing directly from God, but like my friend who is very strong in their faith is like, yes, this is going to happen. And, you know, then it did. Like, maybe I should believe it. um,
Yeah, I like that.
so there's another little story I'll tell you about that too. Same person had another thing that lined up with something perfectly. And I was like, okay, this is crazy. But so the prenatal yoga, I think, helped me a lot. Just they also do like an opening circle. So you're like, everybody was talking about how they were feeling, like physically, mentally, etc. And a lot of in the group, there were always like a few people who had been through loss too. So it was kind of helpful to talk about like how we were feeling, like, oh, I'm feeling really anxious or I'm scared. But even people who hadn't been through loss were like, I'm really scared for this next scan. Like, what if something isn't right? And I'm like, everybody kind of feels at least some like fear to some extent, I guess.
Sure.
Like what if something happens to the baby and there's nothing you can do about it, really? Like,
Yep.
so that was that. There was something else I can share about getting to like the names and stuff too. So the names have been kind of significant. So when I had the second loss, I kept thinking of the name Emma, and I was like, at that point, I didn't know if it was a boy or a girl. So I was like, well, I don't feel like that was the baby's name that we just lost. And I was like, I don't know why, but I keep feeling like this name Emma. And I was like, okay, well, I'll just write that down in my little like diary to remember, I guess.
Uh-huh.
And then other things like when we got closer and we found out that it's a girl. By the way, at the first ultrasound where you can't see anything and there's no way to know, I like saw the baby and I was like, I feel like that's a girl. And then, like my husband
Wow.
said the same thing and he goes, I don't know why, but like just seeing the baby on the screen, I just feel like it's a girl. And I was like, me too.
Wow. And you were right two
We were
times
right.
in a
We were
row.
right. Yeah. And so then we got to the 20-week scan and the same friend who said, "Oh, you're going to have another baby." Like, we didn't tell anybody if it was a boy or a girl. So she's like, "Yeah, I keep hearing, like, feeling the name Elizabeth," which that was one of the other names on my like list of what we wanted to maybe name a girl baby.
Uh-huh.
And
And she had no idea.
she didn't know it was a girl. I
Uh-huh.
never said anything about the name to her, to anybody, only my husband. And she's like, yeah, the name Elizabeth. And I was like, oh my God. Like it was in my phone. Like I had a screenshotted the name Elizabeth and like what the meaning of the name was and everything too. And so I was like, okay. And that was another sign where I was like, I need to just believe that this baby's going to be okay because the same name that I picked out, one of the same names I picked out, this person is telling me that name. Like, okay, all right. I'm going to believe that she's going to be okay. We ended up naming her Emma and then the middle name Isabel, which is the Spanish version of Elizabeth,
Hmm.
because that's how we've done our kids' names. Like first name, like English American, and then middle names we'll do Spanish because of my husband. But I was like, okay. But yeah, the pregnancy was like pretty uneventful. I did end up doing NSTs once I got to, let's say 30, I'm gonna say maybe 32 weeks. My doctor wanted me to start going,
Hmm.
and they were good. I had a few times where she was like not wanting to be on the monitor. She wanted to move around and stuff. And of course, I still had those little freak out moments like, where is she?
Yeah.
And there was one day I had an appointment like earlier that day and found the heartbeat right away, no problem. And then I'd go to the NST like a few hours later and it's like, oh, we can't find her. And I'm like, what? But we ended up finding her. She just was a little sneaky sometimes.
Yeah.
And I had an anterior placenta too, so that didn't help. But
Yeah. Did you have a hard time feeling the baby move?
not really, no. I would
Okay.
feel the baby. And that also was one of the things that helped too, because I'm like, well, I know she's okay because she's moving. Like,
Hmm.
if I didn't feel her for a while, I'd go eat something sugary and then she's like, oh, hey, like wake up and start kicking you. But I definitely did that. Probably more than I should have, but I was like, I just want to make sure you're in there and you're all right.
Yep.
But
Now, what about products? Is there anything that helped with pregnancy that you could recommend?
gosh, I just took kind of like the prenatal and I did the seed cycling to get pregnant. As far as anything I used while I was pregnant, I don't think I really did too much. Just tried to eat healthy. Um,
Okay.
I started taking, I don't know if you've heard of like colostrum. There's Armra is one of those supplements that I was started taking that. It's supposed to help with immunity and things like that. And I was pretty healthy throughout the whole pregnancy. I did have like a little chunk near the end of the pregnancy where I was like super congested and had some kind of weird virus that wouldn't go away. But I
Mm,
think a lot of people had that. Unfortunately, you can't take a whole lot of medicine when you're pregnant.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think there's really anything. I mean, some people like the belly bands. I don't personally like those.
Are they just uncomfortable or what?
I tried one with my son and it just kept falling off. So I was like, this is kind of useless.
Yeah.
But I would recommend trying to find like a prenatal yoga near you if you can, because I feel like that helped me mentally and physically. And I feel like it helped me prepare for labor,
Yeah.
just staying calm and like the breathing techniques. And so I did, after having the labor experience with no pain medication, I was like, I better prepare myself in case that happens again. I wasn't sure if I was going to do an epidural or not. I ended up doing like I held out. I went into labor. I did go into labor naturally this time, which I was really hoping for because I was like, this is probably my last pregnancy.
And how far along were you when you went into
I
labor?
was 40 weeks, 2 days, I think. So
Okay.
it was the day after my due date. So
Now, did the doctor were they concerned that you went over the 40 weeks?
my doctor was very supportive of like, you know, me wanting to wait and see if I could go into labor naturally
Okay.
because she's like, your blood pressure looks great. The NSTs are coming back really good. Like, I would hate to induce you for no reason. So we were like, I was like, okay. They did at my last NST, they're like, we're going to go to twice a week because, once you get past your due date, then they want to just monitor you very closely. But I think I was like 3 millimeters or centimeters dilated at my last OB appointment. And I was like, I want to go in to labor naturally. But I wanted to have my OB there because I'm like, this is probably my last baby. You've been through all the bad stuff with me and the good stuff, and it would be really nice if like you were there the last labor. And she's like, well, I'm not on call until like next Wednesday, so my due date was a Friday. And I was like, oh, I don't know if we can wait that long. And I said something to one of the nurses at the NST, and I said, yeah, I have prenatal yoga tomorrow. She goes, oh, you go to yoga, you're going to go into labor. I was like, really? And she's like, oh, yeah. She's like, you're going to be back here before Wednesday. And so Saturday, I had the prenatal yoga and, you know, just feeling obviously super pregnant. Like,
Yeah.
I want to be done with this. I don't want to force it, but I want to be done with this. Like, it's just very uncomfortable once you get to that point. Like I was like,
Yeah.
how can I get any bigger than I already am? Like my belly button was like, you know, coming out, like just, no space left for anything.
Yeah. I
And
can't believe you went to yoga at over 40 weeks
I
pregnant.
did. Yeah.
I would have been like, screw it. I'm sitting on the
Yeah.
couch.
Well, the other people were like, oh, we were wondering if you were going to come today because we were thinking like maybe you already went into labor. I said, no, not yet. But it was like 9 o'clock at night. I laid down and I felt a little pop in my back. And I was like, oh, I think that might have been my water breaking. And so I went into the bathroom and I sat on the toilet and like, yep, sure enough, more was coming out. And I was like, okay, I think I went into labor. Like, oh my gosh. So of course I had to call grandma, like somebody to watch the older siblings. And so she came over and I called the hotline. They're like, all right, you need to go in. We need to get you checked out, blah, blah, blah. I go in and they did a cervical check, which was not as gentle as my doctor, I will tell you. They're not as
Ooh.
gentle. They're just like, oh yeah, yep. I think I was still at like 3 centimeters. And But they're like, yes, this is amniotic fluid, so we're gonna admit you. I'm like, okay. So the nurse, when I got into the room, was super nice. She asked me, like, oh, did you guys have a nice dinner? And I had to laugh because I was like, we had Taco Bell. Like, it's like really embarrassing, but yeah, my meal before I went into labor was Taco Bell. Like, of course she had to ask me that. I'm like, no, I didn't I didn't have a nice dinner. But anyway, so I went into labor. It was like very intense. I held off until like 3 a.m. trying to do the natural labor, but at that point I was like holding on to the bed railing and like shaking, and my husband was in the corner sleeping, so I was like, okay, I think I need something. So I ended up doing the epidural, and when the anesthesiologist came, he said, oh, have you had one before? I said, yes, and the last one failed. And he said, okay, we're going to make sure, it gets distributed on both sides, because I've heard like sometimes only one side gets numbed, but I was like, it just didn't work for me the last time. So the plan was like lay on your left side for an hour, then lay on your right side for an hour. They're monitoring the baby the whole time. Everything's fine. I tried to rest a little bit, and then I got onto the right side and I was like, "Ooh, I'm feeling a lot of pressure, like constant pressure on my pelvis, like something's, trying to come out." And they're like, my main nurse and then like three other nurses came in wearing gloves, and I thought, "Oh crap, like what is happening?" And of course, like panic, like, "Oh, something's gonna go wrong now. Like now that I'm at the labor part, something's gonna happen and the baby's gonna like something's gonna happen to the baby." And I was like, okay, I have to stop thinking that like that. But they said, oh, we don't think the baby likes that position. Let's move you. I'm like, okay. And then one of the nurses said, are you feeling a lot of pressure? And I said, yes. And she's like, well, let's check you. Oh, you're fully dilated. I'm like, oh, well, that would explain it. So they asked me if I could wait to push. I
Oh my
said,
gosh.
how long do I have to wait? Oh, probably like 10 minutes. They're pretty fast getting over here. I'm like, okay, because the on-call doctor wasn't even there. So I waited and as much as I could. So I had about active labor, actively pushing was 16 minutes through 7 contractions. It
Wow.
went very fast once I got there. And it was like a pretty good experience. So I was happy with how everything went. I felt like I had more of a calm mindset. And since I was able to go into labor naturally, my body was probably more ready to
Mm-hmm.
to do it. Because, I went into labor at like 9 o'clock, and then it like by 5:38, she was born, 5:38 on Sunday morning. So much shorter labor. And it was just, I think I felt more in control, I guess, and just more confident, I guess, going
Uh-huh.
through everything that time.
Yeah.
But
What was important to you after she came out?
so we kind of they generally do like, they delay the cord clamping some at the hospital that we have delivered at. So it
Uh-huh.
was, they waited a little bit. My husband cut the cord, and then, the skin to skin, all that stuff. She latched on right away to breastfeed, and it was pretty good. She was not small for gestational age, so she was like my biggest baby.
Uh-huh.
She
How
was only
much?
7 pounds 2 ounces, but like
Oh, that's not bad.
that was a big baby for me. Um, but I was like, yay, she's not like too small, quote unquote, as whatever the standards are. But
Yeah.
she was very healthy, no issues whatsoever. Blood sugar was good. Her like, retaining her body heat, that was all good from the beginning. So
Mm-hmm.
we were in the hospital through like Monday, I think around 1 or 2, we were released to go home. And, they asked us if we wanted to stay an extra day, but I was like, no, like I can't. It's very hard to sleep in a hospital. Like the bed is very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
There's people coming in and out. My blood pressure was fine. Like I didn't have anything with that they needed to monitor.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty smooth. I did have tearing and stitches after every single birth. So that part was not, you know, I was hoping maybe I could get through it and not have the stitches the last time, but
Nope.
nope. I was prepared at home. I had my like the witch hazel pad, the dermaplast, all that stuff. I had those stocked in my bathroom because I figured I probably will have stitches. So I'm just gonna, and if I don't, then who cares? Like it's just extra stuff to get
Yeah.
rid of. But
Yeah. So
yeah.
how was your recovery?
So we actually, my husband, in past pregnancies, he has not really had any time off of work. He's had like maybe one day. Um,
Wow.
yeah. So he's been with this practice for like over a year now, and they were like, yeah, it's not in your contract to have like any time off, but we're going to give you 2 weeks paid off when the baby comes. So he was able to be with us for 2 weeks, which was really nice.
Yeah.
And I also did a lot of meal prep before the baby was born, like a
Ooh.
lot.
Like freezer meals.
Yeah. So
Oh,
I actually,
brilliant.
there's something called Eat Mama Meals, and it's a like food delivery service. It's an Ayurvedic, like just kind of a different approach to healing and postpartum, but it's very, very pricey. So
Uh-huh.
they also sell a cookbook. I bought the cookbook actually, so I could email you their information. I
Yeah.
bought the cookbook and I just cooked everything. I packaged it the way they suggested, and we're actually still eating some of the stuff. It's all there. It's very good. Like it's nutrient dense. It's stuff that the whole family can eat. The kids are a little more picky, but like my husband, everything's like, oh, this is really good. So they had like, main meals, breakfast, things like that, snacks, like breastfeeding recipes and things like that.
Hmm.
So I probably second trimester, I was doing a lot of that because I was like third trimester, I know I'm going to be really tired. So I'm going to try and get like the heads up on that. And then that's one of the ways I prepared. One last thing that we did was we ended up hiring postpartum doula for a while
Uh-huh.
just to help with because our transition from 1 to 2 was pretty difficult. I was like, we need like consistent help with like transitioning from 2 to 3. And like my son is younger than my daughter was when he came home and she didn't deal with it so great. And my son, I don't even know if he knew what was happening as far as like, oh yeah, there's a baby, but he's like, I don't think he really got the concept until the baby was in the house with us. Like,
Right.
and he did ask me one time, like, when is the baby going back in your belly? And I was like, she's not. His sister asked the same thing about him. So I know it's like a normal thing for little kids to ask, but
Yeah. So what was the best help that the doula did postpartum?
so the way they had it set up is you can have like a daytime shift, which is like 4 hours, and they'll basically help you with whatever you want them to. Like if you want help with like your recovery or with helping with siblings or like kind of just like everyday tasks that you have, like load the dishwasher, just things that pile up when you are sitting with the baby trying to nurse them 24 hours a day.
Uh-huh.
Um, and then you could also do overnights, which is like an 8 hour shift. And we did kind of a mix of that. We ended up doing more daytime stuff because this baby actually sleeps pretty well. So I don't want to say that like
Don't
too
spoil it.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like my first really didn't sleep hardly at all. And my son was more average. And this one I'm like, my gosh, you're sleeping. Like I'm not sure what to do. But
Yeah.
like maybe God blessed us with a good sleeper because we're just too old to deal with like the staying up all night.
Yeah.
But so we kind of did a mix where I preferred more of the daytime help just because like trying to keep track of a 2-year-old when there's a baby and like the 2-year-old wants attention or they're making a huge mess or whatever. We've dealt with a lot of messes too, but that comes with the territory. But
Yeah.
um,
Will you tell our audience how far along you are in your postpartum?
so I think it's 12 weeks today, actually.
Wow. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling pretty good. I had some thyroid issues after I had my son, and I think the same thing is happening right now. Like
Uh,
a lot of hair loss. I had
oh
a lot of
no.
hair loss with him, and I'm like, starting right now. So I'm like, oh man, I was trying like a bunch of different supplements to try and like head it off, but I think it's just gonna run its course. But
Yeah.
so for me, I usually gain 65 pounds no matter what my starting weight is. I gain 65 pounds. Takes me probably like a year or so to get the weight off, but it's going very slow. Um,
That's okay.
so I'm like, I initially lost probably like 17, 18 pounds, and it's just kind of been hovering at the same place, even though I'm like more active. I'm like eating, again, I'm eating very healthy,
Hmm.
and it's just sticking around a little bit. So I did talk to my doctor, and she's like, yeah, probably like around 12 weeks, if things are still not like you're not feeling like things are changing for the better, give us a call and we'll do some more blood work. So I probably will be doing that this week. But
Uh-huh.
other than that, like physically, I can move around well. I'm like starting to try to get back in the gym but also not wanting to overdo it. I do have mommy and me yoga scheduled in the next couple of weeks. I'll be starting that.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, so that should be good. Nice.
Now, now, would you say that you are fully recovered at 12 weeks? Do you feel that way?
I guess it depends on, I mean, I guess externally, sort of.
Oh, but
Um,
mentally. Okay.
I mean, I feel like this postpartum has gone better than others. I don't know if that's just the wisdom with age but also having more help and being able to afford getting more help because it was just kind of fly by the seat of your pants with the other ones. I didn't know what the heck I was doing with my first. And my husband's family, they're all still in Spain. So I know if they were here, they would be like doing like the early stuff, like bringing food and things like that, and helping with the baby. But I don't have a lot of family help close by. So it's like we kind of were like, we know we need to get somebody to
Mhm.
help who's outside of the family, which I don't know. If you have like a great support system and you've got friends and family who are going to come and help you out and do things for you and just check on you and see how you're doing, that's great. And if you don't have that, there's a lot of people who are in the same boat as you. Like you're not the only people who don't have tons of support. Like I see
Yeah.
a lot of, holistic accounts saying like stay in bed for 5 days and then stay near the bed for 5 days. And then like it's just not very realistic if you don't have people or if you're not able to afford help either too. So
Yeah.
and then if you have older kids, it's like that's even harder because they still need to be taken care of.
Yep.
They're not going to be forgotten. Like,
Uh-huh.
so I don't know. If you have people that are willing to help you, absolutely don't be afraid to ask for help. I just personally don't have a lot of resources in that capacity.
Hmm.
Um, so I think being realistic about who can be here at one time and how often, that helped me this time because I was like, I guess I had different expectations when I brought my son home, and it was hard on top of having all the grief and everything that I was going through again. It was just a harder time, I guess, adjusting to everything.
Hmm.
But I don't know, maybe with age comes wisdom, and being going through a lot of hard stuff also gives you some wisdom and makes you kind of prioritize like, is this worth being upset about? Not really. Like,
Yeah.
does it matter that there's a bunch of dishes in the sink right now? Not really. Like, it's going to be okay if it waits till a couple hours from now or whatever. Like, I guess, yeah, I guess I'm just more realistic and maybe a little more relaxed about how I want things to be because you just kind of have to be flexible with kids and babies and recovery. Um,
Sure.
I know when I had my son, I was like, oh, I know how to get my body back into shape. I'm going to do XYZ. And I tried all that and it didn't work. And this time I'm like, yeah, that's probably not going to work. So I'm not going to freak out about it. I'm just going to do my best. But
Yep.
yeah, so I guess maybe just my mentality of being more flexible and more relaxed about some things has probably helped me recover better.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess knowing what's normal, what's not normal. But yeah, I'd say once my hormones get totally back to normal, then it'll be even better. But
Yeah.
yeah,
And mentally, it sounds like you had a great recovery too.
yeah, definitely better than the previous recoveries, I will say.
Yeah.
But
A-
again, I prepared a lot more probably this time. So
Yeah. And you started doing the meals in your second trimester.
I did, yeah.
I'm way behind then.
Well, you still have time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would recommend having some things on hand, like things that don't go bad, stuff like toilet paper and paper
Oh,
towels, and
yeah.
like just having all that stuff so you don't have to run out with the baby and like be getting all this bulky stuff. It's very annoying. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we're missing, but
Yeah. What about pregnancy wise? I know your blood pressure has been the best with
mhm.
this third baby. How do you compare the other two pregnancies with this one at 41?
How I felt during
Yeah.
pregnancy
Like how were they compared? Were they better or worse?
with the my first pregnancy with my daughter, I felt pretty good throughout the whole pregnancy. With my son, like I explained, I was pretty anxious. I did sometimes kind of feel like I don't know, I don't think they were panic attacks, but I had times where I'd have like feel my heart beating really fast at times, but that could very well be related to anxiety.
Uh-huh.
But I did, like I said, I wasn't very active because I was just very scared, very paranoid about me doing too much of something and like hurting him or, putting myself into preterm labor or something like that. So I literally just didn't do much. That was during COVID, and I actually took that year off of teaching because that was when they were kind of doing the masks and then not doing the masks, and we're canceling school, but we're starting school again. So I was like, I don't think I can handle that mentally.
Yeah.
So I was by myself a lot during that pregnancy. There weren't any prenatal yoga. There was nothing I could do because the gym was shut down. Everything was shut down. So
Yeah.
just physically, I mean, I felt huge by the end of that pregnancy too. But yeah, I think the anxiety probably was worse than I thought it was at the time. And now looking back at it, I'm like, wow, yeah, I was dealing with a lot of like fear and a lot of
Hmm.
just feeling anxious throughout that whole pregnancy until he was in my arms. I was like, okay, like, and this pregnancy, I mean, I would get tired and winded. I did have probably more hip pain than I did with other pregnancies, but the yoga helped with that. Magnesium helped with that as well. A
Hmm.
magnesium cream. I guess that's one product I did use, which the brand I used was Eight Sheep's Organics.
Okay.
So I would just rub that like on my hips and stuff when I was sore.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, overall, I felt pretty good. Like I would always kind of laugh with my husband, like, this is the oldest I've ever been pregnant, and this is like the healthiest I've been, which is like so crazy, aside from having a lot of weight gain, but that's pretty normal for me. But I was like, felt good being active and still able to do most of my normal stuff with my kids, like maybe not running after them after a certain point, but um just generally I felt pretty good.
Hmm. Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, is there anything else you want to share about your pregnancy or birth?
I'm not really sure if there's anything else. As far as any advice I might give to somebody about labor and delivery is like, it's good to have a loose outline of what you would like to happen, but also know that things can change.
Yeah.
So it's okay if things change. I never really did like a birth plan for my first two full term pregnancies. I just kind of was like, I'm just going to deal with it as it goes. And this time I was like, I think I don't want medication, but if I end up needing it, I'm going to be okay with that because, like, I just want to get through it and I want it to be at least partially an enjoyable experience.
Right.
So, yeah, once I got to the point where I was like, yeah, this is too much pain, I'm happy that I did the epidural. I know some people are afraid of getting them or they think, you know, there are kind of rare side effects at times, but I have never had that experience. So, yeah, just kind of keeping an open mind, I guess. I know sometimes you really want to have a vaginal birth or a VBAC and it's just not possible. So, like, don't beat yourself up about things changing if they do change. But yeah, that's what I would recommend and prepare yourself for postpartum because that is a lot of times overlooked. Everybody plans for the baby, everybody wants to see the baby, and it's all very exciting when you're still pregnant, but a lot of times you get a little bit forgotten once the baby's here, or they just want to see the baby. They don't maybe check on mom as much. So I would say plan as much as you can for that and maybe figure out what is a realistic expectation for postpartum period.
Yeah.
Most women don't go back to their jeans in 2 weeks, so you probably won't either. So that's okay.
And that's okay.
It's okay. And don't compare yourself to other people. That is something that is very hard not to
Yes.
do. Yeah. And if you find yourself like looking at some account and it's like discouraging to you, like unfollow it or mute it for a while because you don't need to be feeling bad about that.
That's right.
It's hard. Postpartum is hard sometimes.
Yeah.
Even as well as it has gone for me this time, I still have times where I'm like, oh my gosh, like then you look at, your baby's face and you're like, all right, well, you're worth it. So it's okay. But need a little reminder every once in a while. But
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have plans to have more kids in your 40s?
I don't think that's very likely. I know when I was like freshly postpartum, I was like, but what if we have one more? Like, I think probably some of it was the hormones because before I gave birth, I was like, yeah, we're pretty much done, I think, like considering all the stuff we've been through to get to where we are to have our 3 living children. Of course, if I did get pregnant, I would obviously be happy, but I don't think we're going to be like pursuing it as much as we did this time.
Okay.
So probably no more kids. I'm probably going to start getting some of my maternity closet out of the house, but which is hard because I'm also like, do I really want to get rid of that? I don't know. But we've got a lot of stuff. We got to start working on it. But if it happens, I would be very happy. But going through all the things we've been through, it would be a roller coaster, I guess. I remember praying literally, I would pray to get pregnant again, but I also would pray at the same time, if it's going to be another loss, don't let me get pregnant. That was what I was praying before I got pregnant this last time. So that's still very much in my head. It's very much something I consider, and I don't know. It's just, I don't think that's something you can ignore once you've been through a loss, and then going through pregnancies after loss is very difficult, and I've had 3 pregnancies after loss. 2 of them were my rainbow babies and one of them was another loss. So like, I don't know. We're probably done.
Okay.
In the future, maybe we could do some like fostering, something like that. Right now it's probably a little too chaotic with really young ones, but
Sure.
in the future, that's something that we could be open to. But I think probably my body's done with that. But if we get a surprise, then we'll be happy about it.
All right.
Yeah.
And what has been your biggest challenge being pregnant in your 40s?
Biggest challenge, probably just my own mind, I guess. Just like worrying about, something going wrong or something. 'Cause But other than that, it was pretty smooth, honestly. I know a lot of people kind of give older moms hate, like, oh, you shouldn't be doing that because you're going to be so old when they're graduating high school and this and that. And it's like, well, obviously, if I'm able to carry my baby, do everything I need to do, it's probably not your business. But,
Yep.
it's if you're too young, they don't want you to have a baby. If you're too old, they don't want you to have a baby. It's like, you're not the one living the life. So,
That's right.
I think there's a lot of older moms now too, just because of how our society is kind of delayed motherhood, I guess, a little bit. I kind of wish I had started earlier because I wouldn't mind having more kids, but I think realistically, probably, probably we're good where we're at. But yeah, my doctor was great. So I know some doctors are very pushy about inductions and things like that after 40.
Uh-huh.
Thankfully, my doctor was not
Yeah,
was
that's
not
really
one of
nice.
those. Yeah. So, and like I said, my birthday's Christmas Day, so I turned 41 Christmas Day, and then in February 4th is when we had our little daughter, Emma. So, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Now, is there anything you'd recommend that would help prepare someone for pregnancy and birth over 40?
I would, if you're having trouble getting pregnant, I would recommend, probably doing blood work, hormones, getting that all kind of situated, but you know, what's within our control is, what we're putting into our body and how we're treating our body. I would recommend just doing the like prenatal, good nutrition, trying to stay active, not too crazy active, but and I would honestly, I I kind of sing the praises of seed cycling to a lot of people. So I would, if you're at all curious or willing to try that, I would definitely give it a try. It worked for me. So, and I was kind of going into it like, well, whatever, who knows? And then when it actually worked, I was like, wow. So I plan on continuing to do that just because, just to keep the hormones like normal. It's good for basically all hormone health. Like it's something people try for PCOS as well. So it could
Hmm.
could help with that if that's an issue for you.
Yeah. I've never heard of it, so I'm
Yeah,
excited to look more into it.
yeah. I hadn't heard of it until my friend who, again, she was also trying to conceive at the same time. So I was like, okay, well, it's natural stuff. It's nothing wrong with it. I did ask my OB and she's like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Why not? Like, it's natural
Yeah.
food, so go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I would say is, try to stay active, try to get your hormones in balance. That's all the things I did with, you know, making sure you know when your fertile window is and all that stuff. But yeah, I
And
guess
what advice would you give yourself when you were pregnant if you could go back?
not to be so anxious.
Easier said than done.
Yeah. And maybe working on nutrition and just, trying to stay calm. I did an okay job of it this time, but in other pregnancies, I probably didn't do as well with that. But staying calm and doing everything you can to keep yourself healthy.
Yeah. Now, we have a lot of listeners who are also trying to conceive over 40. What advice do you have for those women?
Keep trying. Don't give up. um, Definitely work with your doctor if, especially if there's any kind of issue. Acupuncture can't hurt, I would also say. I don't know for a fact that it did anything for me aside from mentally saying, like, I did everything I could. But I did get pregnant after I did the acupuncture. So, if you think it might help you, go for it.
Yeah.
Like, if there's anything that you think maybe this will help me, give it a shot. And if it doesn't work, then that's okay. But I wouldn't want to deny myself something I think might might be helpful if it could be helpful. So, yeah.
That's a good one. And where can our listeners find you on the internet?
So I think you found me on it's kind of a hobby beauty page. That's Kristen and Violet's Vanity.
Uh-huh.
I'm not super active on there right now just because of baby and everything, but I also have a jewelry page. I make beaded jewelry, and that's Coconut Sky Jewelry. I do, just for fun stuff. I do a lot of color and sparkle, but I've done memorial pieces for moms who have lost their babies or things like that. So I know when I had my first loss, I just associated him with the color green. So I made myself like a pair of green beaded earrings. And I'd wear those sometimes when I was feeling like sad or wanting to feel close to him. But I've done all kinds of different pieces like bracelets or necklaces, earrings. So if you're interested, you can always send me a message and I'm happy to do that. I would be honored to help anybody else who would want to remember someone as well. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, Kristen, thank you so much for sharing your story on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And that wraps up another great episode on Over 40 Fabulous and Pregnant podcast. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a great week, and I will see you next Monday.
Sometimes I have I think of a word in Spanish and I can't think of it in English.